Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
Hello everyone, this is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. We are still waiting for someone from the White House to come out and tell us what transpired between President Trump and Vladimir Putin on that call today. We are here live at the White House. We're waiting for White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to come out and tell us about the updates of today, the call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, what transpired in that call.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
And hello, everyone. Hello. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. And yes, I am the White House correspondent for the America's Pulse Network. I have the privilege of going into the White House briefing room with Caroline Leavitt, and hopefully I'll be going into the White House, into the Oval Office, to speak with President Trump, to ask him questions about the community, about the nation and the world. I've already sent out questions to Caroline Leavitt and the White House press team, and hopefully everything will be fine and everything will work out fine. And like I said, it is an honor. It is an honor to be a part of the White House. So now we're going right into it. So in my last podcast on Tuesday night, the JFK files were being dumped, and we didn't really have a chance to go through it. I had elected official Tim Fazenbaker on with me at the moment that the files were dumped, and we were just kind of combing through it a little bit. So one of the main things is that it's thousands and thousands of pages laid out for the country to see. Reports say there was more than one active shooter, and the CIA was involved. We actually have a little snippet from John Garrett Undermill Jr. that my producer will put up for me now. There it is. Ramparts of June 1967, Volume 5, contains the following passages about subjects. The day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Lake is the evening he showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey. He was very agitated. A small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination. He confided, and he was afraid for his life and possibly would have had to leave the country. And it goes on and talking about how the CIA was involved. Now, we know that our government has been corrupt for so long. We know it. That's why it was so important for President Trump to put John Ratcliffe in as the new CIA director. It was so important that he put Pam Bondi in as the attorney general. It was so important that he put Kash Patel in as the new FBI director and Tulsi Gabbard as the new DNI director, as well as Thomas Homan as the new border czar and so forth. So it's showing you that there was corruption inside the government to kill John F. Kennedy. Why would our government want to kill John F. Kennedy? There's also been reports that Lyndon Baines Johnson had something to do with the death of John F. Kennedy. And this also comes on the heels of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And for those who don't know the Cuban Missile Crisis, the confrontation is widely considered to be closest to the Cold War, and it almost escalated into a full-scale nuclear war. President Kennedy at the time did not want a nuclear war with Cuba. He wanted peace. And it's interesting because there's a lot of parallels between President Trump and President Kennedy. And it's just, it's just what's happening. So my producer says that my cell phone is frozen on my end. It's working fine on my end. And I hope that everyone at home can see me because I'm not frozen on my end. But please let me know in the chat if I'm frozen. If not, I will have to restart again. But he said my audio is fine. But according to my end, my cell phone is not frozen. But if I have to start over again, I guess I'll just start one more time. Thanks, guys. Just bear with us right away. Okay, I didn't know that I was on. We are back. I'm Alexandra Levine live. I'm the White House correspondent for the America's Pulse Network. So we're going to start this all over again. Everyone, Alexandra Levine, don't you just love modern technology? It's fabulous. Let me tell you, it's fabulous. And I have a brand new phone too. But anyway, so as I was saying, going into the JFK files, as you know, on my last show on Tuesday night, we were delving into the John F. K. files with my elected official friend, Tim Fazenbaker. We were delving through and dissecting it. So we're going to pull up that slide again with John Garrett Underhill Jr. Let's pull it up, please. As I was saying, the day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. He said that the CIA was responsible for the assassination. He confided that it was the CIA. So we'll remove that slide for a minute. So that's why it's so important that President Trump put in John Radcliffe is the new CIA director, Tulsi Gabbard is the new DNI director, as well as Kash Patel is the new FBI director, and Dan Bongino is the deputy FBI director to cut through the corruption. As I was saying earlier, there's a lot of parallels between President Trump and John F. K. John F. K. did not want war. He wanted peace. He did not want to go into Cuba and invade. And he was working with the Soviet Unions at the time to make a treaty, to make the peace. So we didn't have to go into war, just like President Trump is doing right now with Ukraine and Russia. He's going in there and he's talking to Putin and he's talking to Zelensky and he wants to make peace. It's the same thing in the Middle East. President Trump is talking to Bibi Netanyahu. He's talking to other Arab nations to try to bring the peace so we can stop the war. And again, President Trump doesn't want to fight other people's wars. We have enough war here in America with this illegal immigration problem. That's why President Trump brought in my friend border czar Thomas Homan and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. It was very, very, very important that all these people came to life and came into our government to get rid of the corruption. That's why President Trump wants to put the FBI and the DOJ building together so that they're not far apart. Even though we know that the DOJ and the FBI are corrupt organizations, but they were corrupt under Democrat, socialist bureaucrats. And a lot of people said that if John F. K. was alive today, he would be considered a Republican. He also was a strong ally to Israel. He supported Israel a lot. He let Israel do their own thing. And also, as I said, he wanted to create the peace. And I believe by him creating the peace, the socialist, communist, Marxist elitists did everything they could to get rid of him. And that's the corruption of the CIA. I think Lyndon Baines Johnson didn't like some of the things that JFK had put into place. And he wanted to take back that power. And he wanted to go in there and be that warmonger and just, have war between our countries and other countries. But that was not John F. Kennedy. And as a result, he was assassinated for it. And it's very interesting because his nephew, RFK Jr., is there right now, and he's reading the files of his uncle. He's reading the death files of his own father. His father was assassinated as well. There's more to that. And then President Trump is going to release his own file about what happened to him in Butler, Pennsylvania, because we don't really know about the psycho that tried to kill President Trump and killed a firefighter and injured two other people, two men. So it's really, really important that we have the right people in power, which we do. And of course, we have something called DOGE. We have the Department of Government Efficiency under Elon Musk, which has been fabulous. Elon Musk has been revealing so much waste, fraud, and abuse. And because he's doing it, people are destroying Teslas. Tesla is not a cheap car. They range from $100,000 plus. President Trump just bought one in cash, over $100,000 for a brand new Tesla. But this is what's been happening. Unfortunately, you have massive fire, before that, this trans woman was arrested, and Damon's going to put up that slide. There you go. This trans woman arrested for attacking Tesla dealership, and she's facing, it's a he, facing 20 years. Now we'll go to the next slide where a massive fire happened at a Tesla dealership. Let's pull up that slide. There we go. Massive fire arson at Tesla dealership in Las Vegas. Do these deranged Democrats understand that they are promoting terrorism? And by the way, burning lithium is no bueno. No bueno is Spanish for no good for the environment. Several vehicles set on fire at Tesla in Las Vegas. And then we have, thank God, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, she declares Tesla attacks. We'll put up that slide. Attorney General Pam Bondi declares Tesla attacks, quote, domestic terrorism, pledges, quote, severe consequences for those involved. Thank God for that. And another slide that says Democrats just uttered these words. Let's put up the next slide. Yep, Democrats just uttered these words, quote, I condemn all acts of violence and vandalism against Tesla, Tesla dealers, and Tesla owners. It's not that hard. And then down below is a picture of Jimmy Kimmel. So Jimmy Kimmel is a famous comedian, and he goes on his stupid night show, and he talks about Tesla, and he says it sarcastically, and he says, yeah, we shouldn't be burning our Teslas. Yeah, it's really wrong. The man is inciting violence. The man is calling for massive destruction of these Teslas. So you're a person that spent $100,000 on a Tesla and you burn it to the ground. Or there was another video of somebody putting a swastika on somebody else's Tesla, calling Elon Musk a Nazi. I mean, this is just insane. And these are the Democrats, the liberal lunatics that are telling you to do this. And they're doing it too. There's so many people that bought Teslas that, Democrats, I would say, majority Democrats bought Teslas, and they want to burn them, and they want to destroy them, they want to desecrate them, because they're making a stance. This is their way to protest. Thank God this is considered domestic terrorism. You don't do that to somebody else's car. You don't do that to your own car. That's sick and disgusting. And then Senator Mike Lee had this tweet. Let's pull this up. Yep. Next, Democrats should utter these words. I categorically condemn swatting and call on those doing it to stop immediately in regards to the Teslas. So we have this issue now with swatting. So swatting is where people call and they pretend to be you, and they say that that there is massive, somebody died in the house, or somebody's about to die in the house. You got to get over here. And this person lives at such and such a door. It's such and such a, and they're doing it to hardcore top conservative podcasters, such as our friend Nick Sorter, Gunther Eagleman. They did it to my friend Juanita Broderick recently. Who else? I mean, there's just Benny Johnson. I mean, all these big podcaster names that have millions and millions of followers. They have SWAT teams coming to their home with guns, thinking that Gunther and Nick Sorter are going to kill a bunch of people in their homes. And when the SWAT team comes in, they say like everything's cool, like there's no problem. This is illegal. What's going on? Why somebody would have the audacity to pretend to be a big podcaster or somebody else, and then reveal their, go in and find that person's information, reveal that information to the SWAT team, and have a whole SWAT team come when you're just having a nice Sunday night dinner with your kids. It is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I, from the bottom of my heart, I hope that there is justice. I hope that the FBI looks into this. I know Kash Patel called this out and said, this is disgusting. And I know that justice will be done, because the problem is that the swatting is just accumulating. And it all has to do with the Democrats have no message. The liberals have no message. And they are trying to fight for something. So they're like, well, we have no legislative power, so we're going to just kind of use the power of the purse. We're going to use the SWAT team. We're going to use burning up a Tesla factory, burning up a Tesla car to get our message. We're going to fight. Their version of fight is killing innocent people and burning cars. I mean, if there was somebody in that car and they burned that person alive, they wouldn't care. That's how crazy the Democrat Party is right now. They have no message. And let me tell you something. You're going to see a lot more moderate Democrats actually #Jexit the Democrat Party and come to our party, come to the Republican Party, because they're starting to see that their party is becoming the party of nuts. It is disgusting. But another good thing what Doge is doing, we'll put up this tweet. There we go. A Doge official is taking a leadership role at U.S. aid after an activist judge attempted to force Elon Musk and Doge to reinstate the agency. Elon and Trump are playing chess while these activist judges are playing checkers. So I believe that all of these activist judges that are going against the law, their law licenses should be revoked. They should not be able to practice law because they're breaking the law themselves, just like Judge Merchan and others and all these other judges and all these lawyers that are not following the Constitution. And again, the president has the power of the purse here. The president can decide what money goes to U.S. aid and what money doesn't. I mean, Elon Musk is the one that discovered it all. He was extremely transparent to we the people. This is what we voted for. So, of course, these activist judges, they get bought and paid for by George Soros and Obama, communist, Marxist, socialist elitists. They get paid by them to not follow the law and to act like asses. And guess what? The American people, President Trump, Elon Musk, they've hashtag had enough. And thank God that they're fighting back. And they're going to say to these activist judges, you continue to break the law. Your law license will be revoked. You will not be able to be a judge. And guess what? You're going to go to jail. And that's how it should be. And any judge that combats Thomas Homan and DHS and ICE and Kristi Noem, their law licenses are going to be revoked. They will be removed from office, and they will also go to jail because that's where they belong. And this is a very, very good tweet. Doge marks, and we'll put this up here. They mark 3.2 million Social Security accounts 120 years and older as, quote, deceased. Remember that Elon Musk discovered that people were getting Social Security at 120 years old, 200 years old, even like 340 years old. President Trump called it out. It was so ridiculous. He said, the guy that's 200 years old, I would really, really, really like to see, where he is or know where he is because he's been drinking the fountain of youth. I want what he's been drinking. I mean, it's insane. It's insane that the fraud, the scam, and President Trump and Doge, with Doge and Elon Musk are calling out the scams. And that's what we, the people, need to understand. And then this is really, really crucial that Doge wrote, Social Security admission. We're going to pull that tweet up right now. There we go. Social Security admission to require in-person identity checks for recipients. And I think that's very important. So that's going to show we, the people, that this person who's 150 to 200 to 300 years old is not alive, but they continue to collect Social Security. We know that what they're doing is fraud. And President Trump has brought this up. He's brought this up so many, many times. And it's so important. It's so important that we get down to the truth of things, that we find out what's going on. But again, going back to the JFK files, it's a lot of files. It's thousands and thousands of files. You can look up the PDF. It's on whitehouse.gov. You can read through each individual file. You can dissect it as much as you want. A lot of people are saying they don't see anything new, but there is a lot of new stuff that's in there. And if you're a reader like me, and you know the law, and you can always talk to an attorney about each individual file, you can just go through the PDF file, go through each individual file, talk to an attorney, and let them analyze and explain it for you. But there is some new stuff in there. I know people are still waiting for the Epstein files to come out. They're waiting for other files to come out. I'm telling you, they're coming out. They have said, the Trump administration, Alina Habba, they've said that the Epstein files are going to be released soon. They just have to make sure that A, it's the right list, that they have all the information at hand, and that they don't have FBIs from different states combating them like the FBI New York did. So Pam Bondi, to her credit, has been very transparent with we the people about these files. So has Kash Patel. And like elected official Tim Fazenmaker said the other day, he said, I know the American people are a little impatient. We're waiting for these files, but this is a different administration, different person in town, different commander in chief in town. And we know under President Trump, because he was there in 2017, he will get the job done for we the people. And President Trump put people in place that will get the job done for we the people. Now, coming up right after the break, we are doing gubernatorial hour here. We are working with the race in Virginia. We have Damon Galdo working with the race in New Jersey. I will be interviewing a gubernatorial candidate for the Virginia governorship, Merle Rutledge, and he will be here right back after the break.
Do you have old home videotapes that you're no longer able to watch? Need them transferred to DVD, Blu-ray, or your smart device? Baltimore Digital offers professional-grade VHS, mini DV, and high 8 digitizing services. We can also convert Super 8mm film too. Baltimore Digital also provides photo restoration services. Visit archive.baltimoredigital.net. Mention code Alexandra for a 10% introductory.
And hello, everyone. Hello. I'm waiting for my producer to tell me if Mr. Rutledge is in the green room and if he's ready to go. As I said, we are having what we call gubernatorial hour. I'm going to be interviewing every single person running for governor and lieutenant governor. And I know there's nobody running against the attorney general, but I am going to have the attorney general of Virginia on, and we will be interviewing all of the candidates. And sorry, my producer was telling me that somebody else is in the green room, but I need my candidate in the green room. So we're going to be introducing and interviewing all of the Republican candidates. And of course, we are reaching out to the Democrat candidates as well. We have to be fair here. It is under the law that if I interview candidates for any race, I have to interview Republicans as well as Democrats. And I have to be, I'll be honest, there will be some questions that I ask some Democrats that are going to be a little bit different than Republicans and so forth. I can tell you I do not have a personal bias on what candidate is running. I do not have a say. I'm not supporting or endorsing any candidate at this time. Now, if I become their political consultant, that's a whole other ballgame. It's a whole other story. And if it ever comes to that, I will let my audience know. But like I said, we are doing a gubernatorial interview, as we had Mr. LaRock the other day, Tuesday night. And he will be on again because we did have some technical issues with him. But we are waiting for Mr. Merle Rutledge. And if for some reason he cannot come, if he's got technical issues, if he's not here with me tonight, I'm just going to roll into a different segment, or I'll talk all about the Virginia elections. So the Virginia elections are very interesting. So the same thing with Virginia elections and New Jersey elections is they're on off years. And this is an off year. So in Virginia, there are some states that the governor can run consecutively, and then there are some states like the state of Virginia where the governor cannot run consecutively. So, for example, Governor Youngkin, he's in his 4 years, and now he has to step aside because he cannot run consecutively. Now, let's say, I'm just saying for an example, now I'm going to say, for example, sorry, people are chatting with me as I'm talking, so I'm sorry if I'm hesitating with my story, but I got some person private chatting me, and then I got someone saying I'm frozen, so bear with me on this. And I hate saying that phrase. My mother told me don't ever say bear with me, but bear with me, guys, because like I said, we are waiting for our guest, and if our guest doesn't come, then we'll have him come back. We'll just reschedule. But anyway, going back to the Virginia elections, because Dave LaRock said that I explained it perfectly on Tuesday night. So with the elections in Virginia, so Mr. Youngkin will be done in 4 years. So what's her name? Winsome Sears will be done as lieutenant governor. She can't run consecutively as lieutenant governor either. So as Mr. Youngkin exits after his 4 years, he cannot run again. So that's why we have new people running. And his lieutenant governor, Winsome Sears, has decided to run. Glenn Youngkin has already endorsed her. I will be honest, she's the picked favorite because she is the lieutenant governor. But she's, there a lot there. I talk to her constituents. As you know, I travel everywhere. I talk to every single person's constituent. I have done a lot of work in Virginia. I sell insurance. I sell health and life insurance in Virginia and annuities. So I talk to my clients about politics, certain clients, if they want to go there. And like I said, I have traveled all over the country. I even did some work for Glenn Youngkin when he ran for governor. I have friends that worked in law enforcement for Glenn Youngkin. So I talk to Mr. Youngkin's constituents, and some people like Winsome and some people don't. Some people want somebody like Glenn. Some people want somebody else. Some people say that Mrs. Sears is not as America First as they would like. Some people say she's just fine. Some people say that, she might have said some bad stuff about Trump a couple years ago, but, she knows where, she knows she's got to work with the America First agenda and President Trump's agenda. And President Trump wants an America First governor. He wants all the governors to be America First and to continue his agenda and push this agenda forward. So she might have changed her tune. She might have said, if I become governor, I'm gonna work with President Trump. We're gonna work on some things, and I need to take back the House and the Senate. Right now, they have a Democrat House and a Democrat Senate. What I've heard from a lot of the gubernatorial candidates is they said it's easier to take back the House than to take back the Senate. So I think the focus is to take back the House. I think that's what the focus is going to be in 2026. So at least if they get one Republican chamber back, that will be very good. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And again, Dave LaRock and Amanda Chase, they're technically not on the ballots they need 10,000 signatures to get on the ballot by April 3rd. So those two, Amanda Chase and Dave LaRocque, are working really hard to get those 10,000 signatures so they can be on the ballot. And sometimes that can be very difficult. I know a guy who tried to get on the ballot as governor of Maryland, and it was very tough for him, and he didn't get all the signatures, and he had to go in as a write-in candidate. And that doesn't happen until the general, not during the primary. They don't have write-ins during the primary. They have them during the general. So it's up to you, Virginians. It's up to you if you want Winsome Sears, who's supposed to be a Youngkin light, or if you want somebody different. If you don't think that Winsome Sears is America first enough, if you don't think that she's going to fall in line with President Trump and his agenda, then they'll look at the other candidates. President Trump did make a comment that the gubernatorial race, the candidacy, it's getting crowded, but he has not pushed his support to anyone at this time. So a lot of people are wondering who he's going to throw his support towards. Is he going to throw it towards Winsome Sears? Is he going to throw it towards somebody else? And then let's say whoever wins that primary, is he going to endorse that person who won the primary, depending on who it is? So we're just going to have to look and see. We're going to have to look and see. And we have some, a plethora of lieutenant governor candidates as well. We're going to have one of them on next Tuesday, Mr. John Curran. And each day from now until April, and even beyond that, I will have gubernatorial candidates on. I would like to host a gubernatorial debate. Again, if I am a political consultant for any of those candidates after the primary, I have to take myself out of the debate process, and I won't be able to interview that candidate or the Democrat candidate because I'm their political consultant. I can't do that. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But it'll be really interesting. I know that Damon Galdo is working on a gubernatorial debate for the people in New Jersey. Now in New Jersey, it's a little bit different. So they are allowed two consecutive terms. Patrick Murphy, he won re-election, and now he's going to be out of a term. So the hope is that we get Republican leadership in there. I do believe that Patrick Murphy did not win re-election because I saw the election real time. Bergen County, which is a liberal county, was going Republican for the Republican candidate. My father and I saw it in the middle of the night, and then all of a sudden it flipped back to Patrick Murphy in Bergen County at the last minute, at the last second, because of these mail-in ballots. One thing about Virginia is they have 45 days of early voting, which is crazy. They do have mail-in ballots, which is also crazy. They have an open primary, which is even more crazy. And that's something, I talked about with Dave LaRocque is, do we want to close these primaries? Do you believe in, what President Trump says? We should get rid of early voting, get rid of the mail-in ballots, just have election day on one day and go back to paper ballots. And a lot of people want that. And I know that President Trump is trying to push that on the federal level. It's the states, though, that must follow. And I believe in getting rid of all the machines. There's a lot of fraud in the machines. We all know this. I have begged my governor, Ron DeSantis, to get rid of all the machines. Now, he doesn't have all the machines in the entire state of Florida, but in my county, Sarasota County, they still have the ES&S machines, which causes a lot of fraud. We saw that a lot in the primaries and in the general election. So I pray to God that my governor will get rid of the machines. I know for a fact that the state of Texas does not have any machines. The Governor Abbott has said over the years, we don't want the machines, and other governors before him. So there are some states that do not have the machines, and they're better for it. Arizona, as we know, still has election integrity problems, massive election integrity problems. Nevada is getting better, but they still have a bunch of election integrity problems. My brother-in-law was an attorney for the general election with the Republican National Law Association. He was there in Michigan and Wisconsin looking at both of those elections in real time. And he said that, Michigan has gotten better with the election integrity, but Wisconsin has not. And he saw a lot of fraud, and he predicted that those two Senate seats that should have flipped, he said they're not going to flip. He's like, there's so much fraud here, so much fraud. And again, there's been so many great election integrity experts that have literally written the book on election integrity. And I would listen to those, what we call those wise men, those wise people that literally have dedicated themselves to election integrity, that their work is archived in a bunch of state GOPs all over the nation, that their work has gone to President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence and former Congressman of Kansas, Chris Kobach, and many other people, and have gone to James O'Keefe and Judicial Watch and Mike Lindell, and that person's research should be pushed out there. It's Maryland 20-20 Watch, Maryland 20-20W Watch. Please go to that website, Maryland 20-20wwatch.com, and you can read everything about election integrity and what it's all about. And everybody in Maryland knows about this man who has written so much about election integrity. He really stokes his life on it. He's very passionate about it. And his research has been archived in state GOPs. It's actually archived in the Maryland GOP. And Sarah Palin knows who he is. My governor knows who he is. Carrie Lake knows who he is. Many famous people. This man had a lot of, he had a woman actually testify in front of the state legislators in Arizona about election integrity. So, I would listen to the man. I would listen to him. Again, Maryland 2020 W Watch. He's a very brilliant man. And as he always says, hashtag Newton said it. When I say that, people know what I mean. Hashtag Newton said it. But again, I mean, we have to really, really, really go back to basics here. We look at France and they count all their ballots on the day because they don't have the machines. It's paper ballots. It's easy. And I even said in Florida, this is a very small primary. It should be easy just to have people count the ballots. This is insane that we don't have people counting the ballots. This is crazy. But what are we to do? What are we to do? But as I said, so Glenn Youngkin is there for 4 years. He goes bye-bye. We get a new governor in 4 years. Now, if Glenn Youngkin wants to run after those 4 years, after the new governor gets in, he can do that. We have an issue in Maryland. So Governor Larry Hogan, former Governor Larry Hogan, he served 2 terms and then he left. He ran for U.S. Senate. He lost very badly to Angela Asselbrooks. And now I heard he wants to come back and run for governor again because apparently he thinks he's the only one that can beat Wes Moore, that he can beat Wes Moore. Well, Larry Hogan, the people of Maryland rejected you. I actually found out that more people voted for Trump than you. You divided the Republican Party. You had to get every single Republican vote for you to even win the U.S. Senate, which you didn't. And you have to get every single Republican vote to win the governorship, which you will not get. And you have to get a big chunk of independents and you have to get some Democrats. What Larry Hogan tried to do is he tried to get some chunk of independents and a chunk of Democrats, but he didn't go to the right Democrats. He was trying to go into Angela Asselbrooks' base. He was trying to, fight the abortion thing and say, I'm just like Angela Asselbrooks when it comes to abortion. Dumb. He was a one-issue guy. And now he wants to come back. And there's a campaign going on called No More Campaign. There is speculation that Larry Hogan's hands are on that campaign. But he's washed his hands clean because the Democrats can't find the donors. They can't find the people that are really behind it because it's either under an alias name or Larry Hogan is just saying, well, that's not me, but he's getting other people, what they say his minions or other central committees to kind of work his campaign behind the scenes. And it's against these central committees' bylaws to help a candidate before the primary. It goes against their bylaws. They could lose their charter. They could lose their positions. It goes through the ethics committee. The ethics committee makes a complaint unless the ethics committee's in on it. But that's against the bylaws. Same thing with the RNC and the MDGOP. Under the bylaws, RNCs, MDGOPs, they cannot endorse a candidate before the primary. So if they're involved with the No More campaign, and that's Larry Hogan behind it, because he's running for governor, they're subject to losing their charter. They're subject to being sued. They're subject to losing their positions and so forth. So it's very, 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 interesting. Very, very interesting. And again, we want to have free and fair election. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. And we have to have free and fair election. We have to have free and fair election. If we don't have free and fair election, then it's never going to be. It's never going to be. But again, Election has to be on the day. It should be a national holiday. Paper ballots all the way. Get rid of these mail-in ballots. Get rid of the early voting. Now, some people suggest to me, well, early voting is good because you have some people that are out of town that can't make it on election day, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's where you have an absentee ballot. That's where, and then you have military votes. I've done absentee. Absentee has been very secure for me. That's why we have absentee. But you don't have to have early voting for 45 days. That's where the fraud comes in. They had it in Pennsylvania, they have it in Virginia, they have it in other states. It's too much. Even 1 or 2 days of early voting can really can hurt an election. Now, I will be honest with you. President Trump encouraged a lot of people to do early voting this time around, which actually helped. A lot more Republicans came out for early voting than ever before. In some states like Pennsylvania and the big swing states, the big liberal states like Michigan, Wisconsin, there was a lot more Republican support for the early voting than ever before. And that's what's important. That's exactly what's important. So it worked. So by President Trump encouraging people to do early voting, it worked. It heavily worked. And we have to make Virginia red again. We have to make New Jersey red again. I'll be honest, I worked in Virginia. I'm very disappointed that President Trump didn't win Virginia. And I don't blame him for that. I blame the leadership that was in power. I do blame Glenn Youngkin and Winsome Sears for not getting President Trump over the hump. And also, I'll be honest, I tried to get in touch with the Senate candidate, Mr. Hung Chow. He was MIA. And a lot of people have told me, they said, we couldn't find his signs anywhere. We don't know where his signs are. And I'll be honest, I didn't know where his signs were either. People didn't think he was a strong enough candidate. Congratulations to him. He's now working in the Trump administration. But I think, in my opinion, if we had a stronger candidate, that would have helped because he was heavily endorsed by President Trump. Tim Kaine has a lot of money. He has a name. People know him in Virginia. Crazy leftist, though, who's the running mate with Hillary Clinton when she ran for president. So it's like he got defeated as a VP candidate, but he wins again as U.S. Senator. And he's liberal as hell, socialist as hell. They say a lot had to do with Northern Virginia, that there's a lot of federal government employees that work in Northern Virginia and they all vote Democrat. Well, guess what? Doge comes in and they start eliminating federal employees. They start eliminating DEI. Remember, no more DEI hires. So maybe Virginia will become red again. Maybe Maryland can become more red. Maybe New Jersey can become red again. And also New York. There's parts of New York that are becoming more red. Manhattan, which is liberal as hell. I used to live in Manhattan. They hashtag had enough of the crime. The Jews that live in Manhattan were sick and tired of the anti-Semitism that was rising in their city. And there was a lot more Jewish people that voted Republican in the general or hashtag left the party because of the anti-Semitism. And there's a lot of illegals that live in New York. And Mayor Eric Adams, he came out and said, I'm tired of these illegals. We got to get them out. And what did the government of New York try to do? They tried to sue him. They tried to they indicted him. They tried to put him in jail. And President Trump knew that this was a coup d'etat, just like what New York tried to do to him. Just because Eric Adams came out and said, I'm not a fan of the illegal immigrants at all. I'm not a fan of these illegal criminals. There's too much crime in New York City. And he's the mayor. Thank God that Pam Bondi is suing the state of New York. She charged Letitia James. She charged the governor, Kathy Hochul. She charged Alvin Bragg. And I hope that more states will follow. I have reached out to Pam Bondi. I have asked her to sue the state of Maryland, to charge the governor, Wes Moore, to charge the attorney general, Anthony Brown, and to charge the Baltimore City mayor, Brandon Scott. That's what I've asked her to do. That is what I've asked her to do. And it's going to happen. It has to happen. It has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then it's just going to be a real problem. A real problem. A real problem. Because we cannot have people continuing to break the law. Because if they do, it's a problem. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. We're not going to have it. We're not going to have it. But as I said, you're going to see a lot more moderate Democrats hashtag leaving the party. They're going to leave the party and they're going to become Republicans. As my elected official friend Tim Facemaker says, you have to make it your Republican Party. What does that mean? Does he want them to take over our party? To change our party? No. What he wants to do is talk to the Black community, the Jewish community, Hispanic community, talk to people that never vote Republican and say, why don't you like us? Why don't you vote with us? What don't you like about us? And then they say, and then he's like, well, that's not really a reason not to vote with us. It's not really a reason not to join us. Maybe we can come to a consensus here. Because that's what Trump did. Trump went to the Teamsters, he went to the unions, he went to the Black community, the Jewish community. He couldn't understand why they didn't support him. He's like, this is what I want to do for you. How can you not support me? And that's what Tim would say. Are you happy? If you're not happy with what the Republican Party is doing to your district, to your state, to your county, what can we do to make it better for you? Let's come sit at the table. Let's compromise and make it your Republican Party. Take the idea that you have and encrux it or engulf that idea into our party so that it will work better for you. When the rise of anti-Semitism was happening all over this country, it's a bipartisan issue. The Democrat constituents saw that the Republicans were getting involved, that they were tired of seeing kids getting pummeled on school campuses for no reason. And Democrat constituents saw that. The Democrat students were very scared. The Jewish Democrat students and the Christian Democrat students were very scared to go to school for fear they were going to be attacked by this terrorist. And then the Democrat constituents would reach out to the Republican Jews and say, why is this happening to us? What can we do? What can we do to stop this? Why isn't people from our party? Why aren't the Jews from our party like Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders and Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Why aren't they helping us? Why isn't Jerry Nadler helping us? Why isn't Sidney Blumenthal helping us? Bob Sherman, Janet Spire. These are all Jewish senators. Congressman Adam Schiff, now he's the senator. Why aren't they helping us? And the Jewish Republicans said, because they don't care. Because they're bought and paid for by socialist communist Marxists. But we care. I reached out to Democrat Jewish students who were getting attacked. And I didn't discuss party affiliation with them. I asked them how they were doing, if they were okay. And they said, oh my God, my own dean, my own president wouldn't even call me, my own classmate, but you, a perfect stranger, did. And I thank you for that. And then we started talking about political parties. Then when they found out I was a Republican, then they switched. Dev Heiken, who's a good friend of mine, he was a New York Assemblyman, Democrat for many years, but he supported Donald Trump, voted for Donald Trump. My Brexit organization kept saying to him, Dov, when are you gonna change parties? Stop voting Democrat all the time. He's like, well, I'm a councilman, I'm an assemblyman. I got to be a Democrat or I won't get voted. I won't get voted back. But Dev Heiken saw that his party, under Jerry Nadler, under Chuck Schumer, were ruining the party. And he didn't want to be associated with anti-Semites in the party either. So he hashtag left the party and became a Republican. Alan Dershowitz, lifelong Democrat. Alan Dershowitz became an independent. RFK Jr., Kennedy, lifelong Democrat, became an independent. Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat. Switched to independent. Now she's a full-fledged Republican. Elon Musk was a Democrat. Now he's a Republican. A lot of hardcore Democrats have switched. My friend Brandon Strzok, who started the hashtag walkaway movement, he was a hardcore liberal Democrat from New York for many years. And he saw the evilness and the wickedness of the media and how they twist everything and turn everything and they connive. And he literally left the party and became a Republican. These are real stories of people that were hardcore libs and saw the corruption around them and left the party. And I believe now, more so than ever, that this is the time that we can get more people to leave the Democrat Party and come to the Republican Party. The conservatives are on the rise. The conservative movement is on the rise. The America First agenda is on the rise. This is the way of the world now. We rejected socialism with Kamala Harris. We didn't want Joe Biden again. And we all know that the 2020 election was rigged. Completely and totally rigged. And President Trump will continue saying it because we all know it was the truth. Completely rigged. But it's very important to understand that making it your Republican Party is reaching across the aisle. That's why it's so brilliant that Tim came up with this, is reaching across the aisle to the opposition, asking them, why hasn't our party done it for you then? What can it do for you now? And listening to their ideas and letting them have their ideas and put their ideas into our party and compromise with them. And some ideas we may like and some ideas we may not like, but I know at the end of the day, we can all come to a consensus. I have more Jewish Democrat friends now than ever because of October 7th and because of the rise of anti-Semitism all over the country and on school campuses. I have a lot of Christian Democrat friends that vote Republican. It's the rhinos and the socialist Democrats that are detriments to our nation. I've said that for years. I will continue saying it. Larry Hogan is a detriment to our nation. Dirk Hare is a detriment to our nation. These are rhino Republicans that don't give a darn about anybody but themselves. Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, Jerry Nadler, they don't give a crap about anybody but themselves. Adam Schiff, the same. These are Democrat socialists. The squad could care less about America and Americans. Congressman Brandon Gill of Texas wants to send Ilhan Omar back to Somalia. And she should go back. I don't even think she's technically legal. She married her brother, Rashida Tlaib. She hates Israel so much. She loves the West Bank. Go back there. Go there. Go live with your grandma and your anti-Semitic brothers. AOC hates America. Hates it. Go hang out with the Taliban. Ayanna Pressley. She hates legal citizens of this country. She worships illegals. Same thing with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Jasmine Crockett needs to go hang out with the drug cartels because that's who she supports. Hang out with people that you support. Queers for Palestine. Go hang out in Hamas. Go hang out with Hamas. Go hang out with the Taliban, ISIS. Go hang out with them. You love them so much. You think they're awesome people. When I was at the White House, there was a pro-Hamas protest right outside the White House. They're screaming out propaganda that Israel is an apartheid state. Israel is a racist state. Israel is a welfare state. All this crap. And I say to them, isn't that funny? You're in America. You're using your quote freedom of speech. You can do that, right? We have First Amendment rights here. You're spewing out your crap because you say to yourselves, well, this is my First Amendment rights. I can do this. I said, go to Gaza, go to Hamas, hang with them and say your crap. Go to the Taliban, go to Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigade, go into Syria with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, say your same crap. Are they going to welcome you there with open arms? No, they'll welcome you with knives and guns and blow your heads off and chop your heads off and make a spectacle of your death. They'll kill you slowly, just like they did with Daniel Pearlman, the very famous reporter. They took a knife and they just kept slicing his neck very slowly. They don't kill you fast. Terrorists don't kill you fast. They kill you slowly and they make you suffer. So go ahead, all these people that support terrorist organizations. And you have the audacity to be upset about a Columbia University, quote, student who had his visa revoked because he promoted pro-Hamas protests. You're mad that his visa was revoked and he can't do pro-Hamas protests anymore. Boo-hoo. Disgusting. And that's what I saw in D.C. The rally started at 2 p.m., the protest, I should say, with I would say maybe a handful of people. Well, maybe more than that, maybe like 20 or 30 people. And then at the end of the night, they had hundreds and hundreds of people surrounding the White House, spewing out the pro-Hamas crap. Enough is enough. The country's had enough. You have no message anymore. You have no voice. You keep doing this. You're going back to your respected countries. You're going to go hang out with terrorists. Your visas will be revoked, and that's it. Enough is enough. No more illegals voting in our elections. Photo ID across the board, all nations. That's what should happen, because the states that didn't require photo ID, guess what? They went for Kamala Harris. Maryland was one of them. So that's why it's so important, guys, that we fix the election integrity system. It's so important that we have free and fair elections. And it's so important that we listen to President Trump and adhere to his executive orders and what he's doing, because he is the commander-in-chief and he is the head of the Republican Party. And like I said, I'm so sorry that we weren't able to have the gubernatorial candidate, Merle Rutledge, on our show tonight. We will call him to reschedule. But we have other special guests coming up, because we will forge ahead, forge on. We have two wonderful young men, Noah Coffey and Ollie Rutledge. Noah Coffin is the president of the Turning Point USA chapter at Western Albemarle High School, and Ollie Rutledge is his vice president. And they will be coming live with us right after the break.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up, because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, Elena, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution, because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
And hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. Again, we have two wonderful guests coming up. We're going to put up the first picture. President Noah Coffin. There he is. He's the president of Turning Point USA chapter at Western Albemarle High School. And we have his colleague, Vice President. We'll put up his picture. There we go. Vice President Ollie Rutledge, also of the Turning Point USA chapter at Western Albemarle High School. Let's bring both those boys in live.
Hey, Miss Levine.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was told your last name was Rutledge, not Woodrow. So I am so sorry.
Oh, no, it's all good.
I'm so sorry about that. So we have Ollie Woodrow with us tonight. I'm so sorry about that. So anyway, thanks, guys, for sticking with us. This has been awesome, and we're just going to dive right into it. So you guys have a chapter, a Turning Point USA chapter at your high school. Noah, as the president, tell me how that came to be.
Yes, so during the height of the recent election, Charlie was obviously trending on social media.
Noah, we just need you to turn up your volume just a little bit.
I'm trying to. Hold on.
We can hear you.
Is that better?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
During
better.
the height of the recent election, Charlie was he was trending on social media, all sorts of talk about him. And that's where I first discovered him too, and where I first started closely tracking the election and starting to dive into politics. And I remember I saw one video about this thing called America Fest through Turning Point USA, which is this large conservative gathering. Trump was there, Ben Shapiro was there, Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, all these people. And I was like, whoa, I want to go. And so starting to look into it more, I found out about you could start your own Turning Point chapter. So I called up Ollie on the phone. I was like, dude, I have a great idea. And so, it's gone on from there. Now we have 100+ members coming to all of our meetings. We're bringing in former congressmen, and it's been mind-blowing, the amount of success that we've seen so recently and the amount of change that we've been able to impact in the Charlottesville area.
That is awesome. So, Ollie, as the vice president, tell us, how many students do you have as a part of your chapter, and what are you doing to recruit more students to your chapter?
So we've actually seen great turnout at all of our meetings. Our very first meeting, we had over 100 students, which the assistant principal informed us is the record for the most students to ever attend any club meeting in Western Illinois history, which is super impressive. And I think it just shows how much support there is for our club at our school, because for as much liberal people there are at our school, we are in a very blue district, obviously. So there's a lot of those. There's also a lot of conservatives, and we've just been so happy to see that. And we are working to recruit more people. We are offering incentives to come to our meeting. Like, we offer people pizza when they come to our meetings. And I think that's great, because it helps to bring in a lot of people who maybe don't specifically share our exact viewpoints, but they want pizza, and then they come and they hear our message. And I think that's great.
So, Ollie, I'm going to continue on with you, and then I'll have Noah follow. How do you serve to educate students on the constitutional and conservative values that founded America?
Well, obviously, Turning Point USA, our core values are limited government, freedom of speech, and free market capitalism. And we have been going through slideshows and hosting speakers to talk about that. Our very first meeting, we talked about free market capitalism. We talked about how the free market actually is beneficial to the economy, because a lot of people want the government to step in and do more. But we went through how the founding fathers actually had a plan for our economy and for our nation that was beneficial, and they outlined that in the Constitution. And today we had a meeting about limited government and what the founders thought about limited government. And we had some quotes from the founders in that presentation. And we had Bob Gooden, who's a former Virginia congressman, and he talked about his experience with the Congress and how he has tried to fight for these constitutional values.
So, Noah, when you recruit the young students into your chapter, is there a vetting process that you go through in order to decide who should be a part of your chapter or not? Oh, your volume is low, Noah. I don't know if you muted yourself.
Is this any better?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm not sure what's going on right now.
Yeah.
But according to our school policy, but also to our own personal goals for our chapter, everybody is welcome, whether you're Republican, Democrat, whatever party you identify with. Also, for Turning Point's guidelines, we're nonpartisan. We're not a Republican club. We're not a Democratic club. We're simply a club that seeks to identify and educate students on these conservative values. And so when we have a student who comes in and they say, hey, I'm going to be part of your chapter, whether, they're obviously a known Republican or a known Democrat, we say, hey, we would love to have you come. Because even if they are, a liberal who's coming to our club, a lot of skepticism, they're like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I like this on our school, which we've discovered from a lot of pushback. We love that they're here in our meetings, because they keep coming over and over and over again, and they hear this message, and we can really drill this into them. Eventually, something's going to stick. And those are the best moments for us, when we have people come up to us who we know might not be in agreement with us and say, hey, I really like that. That was cool. That was smart. I agree with you. And that's the whole reason we're here. We're here to identify and educate these students on these constitutional values.
So let me ask you, Noah, so anytime you have a scheduled Turning Point USA event or a meeting, or a big name comes in, let's say Ben Shapiro, for example, do you have protesters that are protesting your high school against a big speaker coming in or against your chapter? Have you experienced anything that we've seen on other high school or college campuses with your chapter?
So thankfully, in person, there have not been too many acts of protest. I'd say the only one we had in person was when we first started. We did a tabling event in our cafeteria where we had donuts and we had all sorts of buttons and stickers and pins promoting our event. We had groups of students who were kind of standing outside, blocking people from coming in, which thankfully admin, who's been so helpful in this process, was able to divert them and send them away. But most of the hate and the protest has, not surprisingly, taken place online, where they're hiding behind a screen, to the point where we're getting, body shaming in the comments, people saying plenty of inappropriate things on our Instagram. So we have to turn off comments to prohibit that. And it's not surprising, right? It's such a theme of the left that the hate and the bullying comes from hiding behind a screen, hiding behind a mask. But I am very thankful that in person, everything has gone very smoothly so far.
So, as you guys know, Turning Point USA is about freedom of speech. It's about First Amendment rights, and et cetera. But sometimes you may experience some hate speech, especially on your high school, and we've seen this in the college campuses. So my question to you, Ollie, is what are you doing to combat hate speech on campus?
So if you mean hate speech in like the way of hate speech against us, definitely we had a lot of hate speech toward us in the Instagram comments, which we're all for freedom of speech, but it certainly, those comments got to a point where it was directly body shaming people, and we realized like nothing beneficial was coming out of that. It was not going to be a healthy debate where people are using their freedom of speech to have a discussion and share their ideas. It was more of just like putting people down, trying to shut us down, trying to scare us out of doing what we're doing. So we realized we did need to turn off the comments, and we did there. But we are all for freedom of speech as long as people are using that in a productive way to actually have a healthy discussion, a healthy debate.
And I was going to say to you, Noah, as you know, I was talking earlier in the last segment about the rise of anti-Semitism. We've seen that more on colleges and universities. Have you seen any of that creep into your high school? Oh, you're muted again.
There we go. Is this any better?
Just wherever you are,
Okay.
just don't press the buttons.
Yes, of course. Hands off. We are very lucky at our high school that we personally, I know me and Ollie and many other students haven't experienced anti-Semitism, which, especially on college campuses and many other, even in our area, is an issue that's being discussed. And so at Western Elmore High School, we are very privileged to have a group of pretty responsible students who really do love and respect each other. And so we haven't run into it.
Oh, Noah, you're cutting out just a little bit. Can you just reiterate, what you just said?
Yes, ma'am. At our high school, thankfully, we have a group of very young and respecting students who truly.
I think you may be having some connection issues. You may have to restart.
I'm sorry, I can speak for him.
Yeah, go ahead, Ollie. Yeah, we're going to have Noah turn off his computer and turn it back on. Go ahead, Ollie.
Yeah, so at our school, students are very respectful, and we do have a lot of Jewish students at our school. And I know me and Noah personally have many Jewish friends. And I don't think we've actually seen much of that anti-Semitism happening at our school, which we're very grateful for. There's a lot of respectful students, and we haven't seen anything like that. So we're grateful, and we're hoping that continues.
So let me ask you a question. How are you giving conservative voices a voice?
How are we giving conservative voices a voice? Well, the first part, to have a voice, you have to be educated. You have to know what you're talking about, and you can have these beliefs, but you need to have the ammunition. You need to have the facts. You need to be educated so you can actually go out and share your voice with others. And so that's what we're doing. We're educating students about these topics. We're giving them the ammunition they need to go out and speak their voice. And we're also giving them a voice at the school. We're giving them a platform for open debate. For example, we had Congressman Bob Good, like I said, he came in, and afterwards we had some questions. We had a great discussion. People shared their views. We got, there's a lot of people that didn't agree with us, and we came and we just had an open discussion with Bob Good, and we talked about some important topics.
Noah, I see you're back. Woo! I hope everything's working.
We're in the middle of the storm, and so our Wi-Fi's been pretty spotty.
I heard there is a storm going on. I'm so sorry about that. And I think there's one going on in New Jersey as well. But Noah, when it comes to the topics of what you guys are going to talk about, or what you guys talk about, I should say, in your chapter meetings, do you have the students that are part of your chapter, do they write down a list of topics that they want to discuss for the meetings that you guys have? And my follow-up question to you, Noah, is do you guys have weekly meetings? Do you have monthly meetings? Tell us the structure.
So right now, as we're starting to close our series on our core values that our club stands for, we're getting ready to put out a survey in our weekly announcements. It's going out to all the students saying, hey, what topics do you want to see discussed, right? But we made it a priority to go ahead and say, here are the 3 core constitutional values our club stands for, which can be applied to a lot of the issues going on today, which we have been applying them to. So we've been getting those done in our first little series of lessons as we prepare to say, all right, what issues do you guys want to see addressed? What do you want to hear us talk about? What do you guys want to debate? And the first issue that we're going to talk about that's not really part of our core set of constitutional values is going to be abortion. As we're preparing next week, we're going to have Isabel Brown, who is a social media personality. She's going to fly into Virginia and come in with a Turning Point team, and she's going to talk to our students regarding some pro-life issues, her experience in that area, and we'll have some open questioning towards the end. It's going to be great. It's going to be great to see how that goes. As for how often we have our meetings, so far we've been doing bi-weekly meetings, and that's been awesome. It's been great to keep that pace going and get in the swing of things and really utilize the short time we have left in the year to get our chapter off the ground.
So both of you gentlemen mentioned that you are an all-inclusive group. You're okay bringing in Democrats, bringing in independents. Doesn't have to be all Republican. But as you know, Turning Point USA heavily endorses and supports President Trump. So how are you bringing in Democrats and independents across your aisle when Turning Point USA is about President Trump and his agenda and the America First agenda?
Well, the thing is, Turning Point USA, the broader organization, Turning Point USA Action is a separate part. And that's the part that go out, they start the grassroots organization. They go, they chase the ballots for a specific candidate. They're very heavily support President Trump. But Turning Point USA High School, which is what we're a part of, is nonpartisan. So we are strictly just conservative. We support conservative values, limited government, freedom of speech, free market capitalism, but we don't actually support or endorse any specific candidates. So we're not allowed to have anyone come in to speak, for example, who's going to be running for office soon. We'd like to have people who are more not a political candidate, obviously. So yes, we are not a part of the organization Turning Point USA Action, which does openly support President Trump.
So I have a follow-up for you for that. So as you know, Winsome Sears is currently your lieutenant governor, but she's running for governor. Would you still have her come and speak, or you can't now because she's running for governor? Noah? Oh, can't hear you again. Oh, still can't hear you. No. I don't know what's going on with your volume.
Oh, I might have to fill in again.
Yeah. Can't hear you, Noah. So sorry.
Yes, but anyway, I think we're trying to have people who are not going to run for candidate again. For example, we could have Glenn Youngkin come in again because he has served his term and he could not run again next time. But it would probably be, I think Turning Point USA, the high school, we're not supposed to have people who are going to be running. So I don't think we would have someone like her in who's going to run next time. We would have someone like Youngkin who is not going to have another chance to run again this next term.
So anybody that's running for office, you're not going to have them as a part of any event. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That goes to you. Noah, can we hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Hopefully. Okay. So yeah. So again, just to reemphasize. So anybody that's running for office, they can't come speak. Is that correct?
Yes, we're not allowed to endorse any political candidates. And now where that differs is with President Trump. Obviously, he's not a political candidate. And so while this far, we haven't necessarily had too many lessons, too many debates about Trump, Doge, everything he's doing in office, though it is amazing. And it's so exciting to live in this time where we get to see all this unfold and really live through history. Our club can, and we do obviously support our president, as I believe everybody should, regardless of if your political beliefs, you like Trump, you don't like him. Every single person should support our president, pray for our president, and hope that he can do well and have the backs of the American people as he strives to do what's best for our country.
But would you bring Kamala Harris in to speak for your organization?
Probably not, because obviously our values are conservative. And so Kamala Harris does not quite embody the conservative values that our club seeks to portray to students.
Right, exactly. But again, because you said that you support Democrats and independents coming into your side, and then you bring President Trump in as the speaker, how are you going to bring those Democrats and independents to come listen to President Trump speak?
Right. And so while our club definitely would not get President Trump to visit Western Albemarle High School anytime soon, unfortunately, in that hypothetical,
you never know.
You never know. In that hypothetical scenario, I think the name President Trump would draw plenty of Democrats and Republicans alike to come in. I know if Joe Biden or Kamala Harris was invited by a Young Democrats club at our school, I certainly would still capitalize on the opportunity to go listen to them speak, because it is valuable to hear from the other side.
Now, my questions to both gentlemen, actually, I'll go to Ollie now. Have you been working with other high schools to form Turning Point USA chapters as well as yours?
Yes, actually. I think some students at Albemarle High School, I think, they saw our chapter, they saw how good we were doing, and they got super excited that they wanted to start a chapter of their own. So I'm really excited about that, because it shows we're making a difference. We are making waves in our community, and people from other schools are seeing this. They're seeing our Instagram, they're seeing how many people are coming to our meetings, and they're like, we want some of this at our school. So I think that's great that we've had students from other schools reaching out to us, how do we get started? How do we found a chapter at our own school?
Now, at your high school, Ollie, do you have a big trans community in your high school?
Oh, boy. We can't hear you now.
Oh, that was to you, Ollie, actually.
Oh, it's to me? Yes, I mean, not particularly. Like, there's a couple students for sure who would identify as trans, and there's there's a percentage of gay students for sure. There's a lot of support for gay students. There's a lot of big gay flags in classrooms, which we're not like. We obviously don't hate. We accept everyone. We love everyone. We really want those people to come to our meeting, hear what we have to say. But yes, it's not like a huge thing at our school, but there's definitely some for sure.
So is Noah, can you hear me? Or can we hear you? No, we can't hear you.
Nope.
Oh gosh. Oh no. I'm so sorry. We'll definitely have to have you guys back on. But I'll go to you. So you just said that you have gay flags, you have gay pride flags, you have trans people at your high school. How do you deal with that woke culture in your high school when you guys are so conservative and you follow those conservative values?
Well, I mean, like I said, we love when we see those students showing up at our club meetings, which we actually have. And I think at first, like they definitely came to like see if we said anything like disagreeable so they could report us and get us shut down. But I think it is definitely great when we see those people show up at our meetings. And a lot of the teachers too are super against what we're doing. Like we've received a lot of pushback from teachers. We have teachers come up and like look through all our stuff, like flip through all the little booklets we're handing out, make sure like there's nothing bad. But we have, there's definitely a lot of pushback from teachers and students in the gay community. But like I said, we love when we see them at our meetings, and I mean, we accept everyone. So
now, let me ask you, and if Noah can hear us, or sorry, if we can hear him, he can answer too. How many gays and trans people come to your meetings?
I'd say
we can hear you. Woo!
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. I know that the first meeting we had a large group of students in the LGBTQ community, and like Ollie touched on, we accept everyone. We love all these students, and it's really important for us to get them into our club meetings. That's our goal. We want to bring these people into our movement. It's so amazing. We get to see some of them join in our club. I would say we don't have too many. We have a few tables in the back that are some students who definitely aren't totally sure what to think right now, what to think of, their own identity. And so they're going to these things like LGBTQ where it's, hey, we love you, we accept you, so come join our movement. And that's what we're trying to combat. We're trying to say, hey, we love you, we accept you, no matter who you are, come join our movement. And so seeing them show up at these meetings, it's amazing. And it's awesome to be able to, even if they're sitting with closed ears some of the times, eventually they'll open up. And when they do, our message will be poured in.
Yeah, I love the fact that you guys are crossing the aisle, because I talked about that in my earlier segment, is that more conservatives need to cross the aisle and speak to the trans community, the gay community, the Jewish community, the Black community, the Hispanic community, communities that Republicans never voted for. And that's what President Trump did. He's notorious in that. So that makes me feel really good that you guys are not just kind of closed off to it's got to be this way and this is the type of people that we want in our club, that you are embracing, other races, religions, and creeds to grow your chapter. And again, that's how, especially living in purple states, purple districts, Democrat states, that's how you grow the party. And that's how you eventually turn that purple district or that purple state red, because you're crossing that aisle. That's how President Trump was able to win this last election. He crossed the aisle to people that never in their life would ever vote for Republican, and they did. And I think that's so admirable. My question to Oliver is, do your teachers know that you are part of this chapter, and how has that affected your schoolwork? How has that affected your relationship with them?
Well, like I said, there's a lot of educators who are very liberal. Like the education is notoriously blue, but there has been a lot of teachers who are very against us. And even like applying to honor societies, me and Noah are personally a little worried that like some of these teachers are going to see we're part of Turning Point USA, who don't agree with us, and they're just gonna not accept us. But like grade wise, I don't think it's really affected us in that way, but we are definitely worried when we're applying to like an honor society that's reviewed by a board of teachers. Just hopefully those teachers are impartial and they don't see Turning Point USA next to our names and they're like, oh, we're not gonna let them in.
Well, if well, I'm going to follow up with you on that. What if, God forbid, you try to go into an honor society and you know that the board is biased and they vote against you? What would you do in that? I know this is a hypothetical, but what would you do in that situation to combat that?
Well, I know our principal, Jennifer Sublette, is she's definitely on our side, at least as far as like supporting what we do, making sure we are treated fairly. And she is I think she reviews that board, and she is presiding over that. So hopefully, if anything like that did happen, she would hopefully be able to step in and stop that. Or, I mean, maybe we would go to her afterwards and like just make sure that everything that was happening was impartial.
So, no, I'm going to say the same question to you. You're the president of this chapter. Do you feel it even more if your teachers know that you're the president, or maybe they don't know? And if they found out, would that affect you and your schoolwork and what you want to do later on in your future? Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, I know. Oh,
Is this any better?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
There we
like
go.
whatever you're doing, like
No clue what's going on.
on.
Yes, I know, especially as we've been starting our
You're a little quiet, Noah.
As we've been starting our Flag the Classroom campaign, where we are reaching out to teachers, and just in all of the classrooms, there are American flags in every classroom, but these are really small American flags that are hanging up by the door, that it's solely there for the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. So we're reaching out to teachers and saying, hey, do you guys want a flag in your classroom? And so that initiative has been great so far, but a lot of teachers definitely are aware by now of who Ollie and I are, what club we're in. Personally, I haven't seen any negative effects on that. Most of the teachers, while they may not agree with our club, have done a great job of being impartial towards it. I have definitely gotten closer to some teachers who are supportive of our club, which has been absolutely amazing to see. And I mean, in the situation where we didn't get incepted into any program as we go through life because of our political alignments, it also begs the question of, do we really want to be here in the first place? If these are the kind of people who are going to take you out because of what you believe and what you think, is this something that I want to be involved in at all?
And
Yes. Also, I forgot an important point. One of our initial leaders, he was going to start the club with me and Noah, but then his parents were worried about pushback from teachers as far as letters of recommendation he could get going to college, or what you were saying about them being partial, like about giving him lower scores. And his parents were worried about that, and they actually made him have to not be a leader anymore at our club because they were worried we would face pushback.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know when you're a president of anything, you are taking a risk. But again, it's your freedom of speech, and the teacher should honor it, and the dean should honor it, and the principal should honor it. And again, like you said, you're all inclusive. You're not just limiting your club to a certain type of person. You want to include, people from different parties, different races, religions, and creeds. I would hope to God that the principal, the superintendent would appreciate that and acknowledge that. And I think the fact that you even want teachers to join, your chapter as well, to be a part of it, I think that's great and admirable as well. And in my opinion, it's a feather in their cap if you guys go far, especially if you're their student, or if you are, or the principal, in my opinion, should say, that was my student. I would think that logic would tell you that it should be a feather in their cap if you go far, because they can always say, Noah started here at my high school. Ollie started here at my high school. And this is where he is. He's the next president of the United States. He's the next senator, congressman, or whatever you guys want to be in life, the next doctor, entrepreneur, maybe the first guy at Mars, whatever you guys want to do. I think, in my opinion, they should not push back on you guys, and they should be in favor of what you guys do. And let me ask you, Noah, before you start your meetings, do you usually start with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Kind of walk us through the beginning of your meetings.
Yes. Can you hear me? Is it working still?
Yes. We'll let you know.
Amazing. There we go. Yes, ma'am. So we do have a tradition as leaders where we gather and we pray before our meetings, which has been, it's definitely been helpful. I'm a very strong Christian, always a strong Christian, and it's definitely a key part in our day-to-day lives. And so implementing that into Turning Point USA, into our leaders, where we gather, we pray over the meeting, we pray over the students that are going to have open minds, that we can reach them. It's been so beneficial to our club, where we gather, before we gather. And so potentially as we continue on, even implementing that into club meetings, we pray as a club together, could be so powerful. But we're definitely implementing, while not openly discussing and debating in our meetings. Faith is a giant part of why we started this chapter, and how we find the motivation and the strength through Jesus to continue it despite all the strength and despite all the pushback that we've received.
That's so sweet. We just have a couple minutes left, guys. Please tell us how we can follow you and just give us some last minute thoughts. We'll start with Oliver first, and then we'll end with the president. Go ahead, Ollie.
You can follow us at Turning Point USA _WAHS. That's WAHS on Instagram. And I think our GoFundMe, if you search up the same thing, Turning Point USA at Western Albemarle High School, you will find us, our GoFundMe. We've received so much support from the community, and we're so grateful for all that we have, all the help we've received, because all that money is going to go towards our initiatives like Flag the Classroom, putting an American flag in every classroom. It's going to go towards funding club meetings and future events. So we're really grateful, and we're really appreciative of all the support we've got.
And Noah, just repeat all that for my audience and your final thoughts as well.
Yes, of course. Like Ollie said, we have been so blessed with the support that we've received from the community with our GoFundMe, all these generous donations pouring in, and all the kind words of encouragement we received through Instagram.
I was going to say, Noah, the more that you talk closer to your computer, the more we can hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Is this any better?
Yeah.
Much better.
Perfect. Yes. If you go on Instagram and you follow us, you look up TPUSA _WAHS, and WAHS is WAHS. You can follow us, shoot us a message, and we post about our meetings, activities, events we're hosting. So you can keep us up with us there. And if you go onto GoFundMe and you go to search and you look up Turning Point USA Western Albemarle, we will be the first and only thing that pops up. And so you are more than welcome, if the Lord leads you to give there. It's so greatly appreciated. And the support we received has been amazing. It's been unheard of.
And does the GoFundMe go to support your chapter and to help out with events and speakers and so forth?
Yes, it's for specifically our chapter at Western Albemarle High School. And so the funds will be used for outreach initiatives, for events, for funding meetings. All of the funds are going to be used solely for our chapter.
So just to repeat, so your Instagram is at Turning Point USA _YAHS. Is that correct? At
TPUSA, the letters TPUSA _WAHS, which is WAHS.
Oh, W. I don't know why
Yes,
I said
ma'am.
that. Oh, and then the GoFundMe is, if you search Turning Point USA Western Albemarle. Is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. It will pop up. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll definitely have to have you back. This has been a great half hour with you guys. I love young men that are doing something for this country. You guys, whatever you do in life, I know that you will be in the history books because you are doing God's work. It is amazing what you're doing. I hope you guys become, whether you want to become elected officials or maybe Elon Musk one day. I mean, it would be amazing. I just see just bright futures for you guys. This is the future of America right here, guys. And thank you guys so much for being on my show. It has been an honor.
Yes, thank you so much for having us, Ms. Levine. It's been amazing.
Thank you. You're so sweet. And we will be right back after the break.
The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, Elena, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
Hi guys, it's me, Alexandra Levine. I am live. I'm back. We just had two wonderful guests, the president of the Turning Point USA chapter at Western Albemarle High School, that is Noah Coffin, and his vice president, his friend, Oliver Woodrow. this has been such an amazing 40 minutes with them. Please go and follow them on Instagram at TPUSA_WAHS. That's at TPUSA_WAHS. And then please go to their GoFundMe. If you search at Turning Point USA, Western Albemarle, that's ALBEMARLE. That's GoFundMe. Search Turning Point USA, Western Albemarle, ALBEMARLE. They're the only ones in town. You can make a donation to their GoFundMe to help so their chapter grows, to help so they have more meetings. What I love about them is they're all inclusive. They don't just reduce themselves to one type of person. They reach across the aisle to different parties, races, religions, and creeds. And it's so important. These are young people doing this. These are high school kids doing this. And I see big, bright futures for them. And I can't wait to have them back on the show to see what events are happening at their high school. Again, these are high school kids, and they have a Turning Point USA chapter. As you know, Charlie Kirk started it in colleges and universities. Now he's kind of branched out to high schools. But again, these high schools are making it all inclusive. They do not endorse or support candidates. They do not allow candidates to come speak, but they have elected officials come speak. Like they would have President Trump come and speak and so forth. But it's so good to hear young voices and young people doing this. And I wish that they had a Turning Point USA when I was in high school. I wish they had groups like this when I was in high school. So if you are part of the Western Albemarle High School in Virginia, please get involved with the Turning Point USA movement. Please get involved with Noah Coffin, and please get involved and get to know Ollie Woodrow. So we're switching our segment up a little bit. So we're going into segment 3 now, and we're focusing now on health. As you know, a lot of these pardons that happened were fake pardons. We found they were faked through something called an auto pen. Then we find out that Joe Biden didn't even really sign these pardons. We found out that the people that got these pardons signed their own pardons for themselves. Well, why would somebody have to sign a pardon for themselves? Oh, does that mean they committed a crime, or they're afraid that President Trump will find that they did commit crimes against humanity, and therefore, because they're pardoned, nobody can touch them? Well, President Trump put the kibosh on that, and he said all of these pardons, all these fake pardons, are null and void. Now these people like Adam Schiff and Dr. Fauci are subject to prosecution. Yay, thank God. I can tell you a story about my grandfather. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. He was born in the New York area and then immigrated to the Washington, D.C. area after he served in the Philippines in World War II. He was in the Air Corps. And at the time, the Air Corps was becoming the Air Force. He was in Manila in the Philippines for 5 years. He worked on the B-52s. They called him the cleanup guy. He would be there at the very end to kill the rest of the enemy that wasn't dead yet. But he loved the Filipino people very much. He talked very beautifully about the Filipino people and about his time in Manila. But I was very close to my grandfather, and I loved him very, very, very much. And when my grandmother passed away, he stayed up in Maryland for 7 years by himself. He had other family there, but his mind, unfortunately, was starting to decline. He was starting to get early signs of dementia at the age of 90. And my parents felt, my mother and my father both felt, that it was time to move my grandfather permanently to Sarasota, Florida, which is where I'm born and raised and where my family lives. And I'm still a permanent resident of Florida, and a permanent resident of Sarasota County, Florida. So we moved my grandfather down to Florida, and he was doing well for the first few months. And then my parents decided to put him in an independent living facility. It was called Coburnick House at the time. Now it's called Aviva. And my grandfather was staying in Aviva. Aviva is a private facility. They have an independent care facility. They have a assisted living facility, and they have a rehab center. But remember, it's private. So when COVID happened, of course, the private facilities were allowed to dictate if their residents got full vaccinations or not. Well, as you know, living in an older person's community, the suggestion was anyone that was 65 years or older should get the vaccine. But when you have a private organization that is run by a bunch of liberals, they're going to force vaccinate every single person that's in the facility. And unfortunately, my grandfather was forced to take the vaccine, not just one jab of the vaccine, but 2 jabs of the vaccine. The facility threatened my grandfather and said that if he didn't take 2 jabs of the vaccines, that he wouldn't be allowed to come down to dinner and associate with some of his colleagues, with some of his friends, I should say. And my grandfather also had AIDS too. The AIDS also had to be fully vaccinated in order for them to see my grandfather. My mother had to get vaccinated in order to see my grandfather. If we weren't vaccinated, we'd had to take a PCR test. We weren't allowed to visit my grandfather. So my father is not vaccinated. He wasn't allowed to go visit my grandfather. I'm not fully vaccinated, neither is my sister. So we weren't allowed to go visit my grandfather when he was at the independent living facility. My mother only got 1 jab of the Johnson & Johnson, and I can tell you she had a bad allergic reaction to it. She had a red rash on her back for almost 6 to 9 months, and my mother had to get laser surgery to remove the red rash. And I can tell you my mother deeply regrets getting the vaccine. But anyway, my grandfather got the first shot of Pfizer, and then, of course, 2 weeks later, he got the second shot of Pfizer. And then 7 months later, my grandfather obtains COVID. Now, my grandfather was in a rehab center because he had slipped in his shower area, and he actually broke half of his hip. He had to get a partial hip replacement. So he was at the rehab center recovering from his hip replacement. And my grandfather was 98 years old when he got this operation. And my mother was nervous about my grandfather getting an operation, 98. And the doctor said, if I didn't think your grandfather was strong and capable, I wouldn't have him do it. And my grandfather was strong and capable. But because my grandfather was forced to get 2 shots of the Pfizer vaccine, my grandfather obtained COVID. And he was the only one in the rehab center that had COVID. And of course, they closed off the whole floor just because of my grandfather obtaining COVID. So my mother and I, my family, weren't allowed to see my grandfather, visit him when he had COVID. So God forbid he died in the COVID ward, because that's where they put him. I mean, the last time I would have been able to see my grandfather was through FaceTime. And that wasn't even working. They wouldn't even feed my grandfather. They gave him Ensure. My grandfather lost 25 pounds, which was insane. My grandfather wasn't even given the proper medications to help his COVID. My grandfather also obtained pneumonia because, as you remember, COVID was a respiratory virus that turned into an infection and was giving everybody breathing problems and so forth. So my grandfather got pneumonia. You would think, he's 98 years old, that the doctors would give my grandfather antibiotics. No, they gave him Robitussin and Mucinex. So the pneumonia was just getting worse. And mind you, my grandfather had never had pneumonia in his life. And it was day 1 of my grandfather still having COVID, day 2, day 3. Well, I happened to be visiting Florida at the time, and I saw that Governor DeSantis was opening up monoclonal antibody treatments called Regeneron all over the state. He started in Jacksonville, went all over the state. And I said to my mother, I said, this is what we need for Grandpa. We need to get him the monoclonal antibody treatment to make him COVID free, because this is saving people's lives. But unfortunately, there was a timeline. You could only get the monoclonal antibody treatment between the first day of obtaining COVID to the 10th day of obtaining COVID. If you didn't get it after the 10th day, you were not eligible, and you would literally just die with COVID. It was day 5, day 6 that my mother reached out to the doctor, and they said, well, there has to be a protocol. You have to go through infectious diseases, and once infectious diseases approves you, then you can get the treatment. Well, it was day 5 already, day 6, day 7. We were waiting for infectious diseases to approve my grandfather. We were waiting for my grandfather to be able to get the Regeneron. Nothing happened. I said, Mom, this is ridiculous. They want to kill Grandpa. They're not helping him. We know he's a perfect candidate for this. I said, I'm going to do what I think is right. And I'm going to go above their heads. I'm going to write and email the governor. I'm going to call the governor. I'm going to call his office, because I already had a relationship with Governor DeSantis because I worked on his gubernatorial campaign. So I said, I have the relationship with him. I visited him when he was a congressman in DC. I actually met him at Mar-a-Lago. I met him at the DoubleTree Hotel and drove him with another friend of mine to Mar-a-Lago, because he and I happened to be going to the same event that night. And then I made an appointment at his office to see him right after I met him at Mar-a-Lago. So I already had the relationship with my governor. And this was when he was a congressman, just announcing that he was going to be governor when I met him at Mar-a-Lago. So I had, like I said, I had the relationship with my governor already. I called his office, I emailed him, and the Department of Health literally called my mother the next day and said, Debbie, what can we do for you? What can we do for Grandpa? And my mother told them the entire story. They said, Debbie, we're going to bring a SWAT team, or sorry, not SWAT team. Hello, a strike team. They call them strike teams. We're going to bring them a strike team to the rehab center to administer the monoclonal antibody treatment to your father. We're doing that tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Tell the facility we're coming over. It's the governor. What are they going to do? Stop us? We're coming over. And it's exactly what happened. Less than 24 hours after we had talked to the Department of Health under Dr. Kenneth Shepke, the strike team, the DeSantis strike team, 3 people came to my grandfather's facility. Not only did they administer Regeneron to my grandfather that day, but they saved 5 other lives that day. And after my grandfather received the monoclonal antibody treatment, he was up and running, he was strong, and he became COVID free. There was no way in my life that I was going to allow my wonderful 98-year-old and a half World War II grandfather to die of this horrific virus. And as a result, my grandfather had an extra month of life to live. But what the governor and I were trying to do is give my grandfather extra years to live. My grandfather should be alive today. But what happened was my grandfather ended up in the hospital at Sarasota Memorial Hospital, where they had a lot of doctors that were listening to Dr. Fauci. And Sarasota Memorial Hospital was known as a hub for having a lot of what they say COVID deaths and administering something called remdesivir, which, as we know, kills the kidneys and kills the lungs, instead of giving the monoclonal antibody treatment, instead of helping people with COVID. I know for a fact at Sarasota Memorial Hospital that they were not giving antibiotics to people with pneumonia. They didn't even give my grandfather the correct antibiotic. They gave him amoxicillin instead of giving him doxycycline. They did not give my grandfather ivermectin when my mother suggested it, or hydroxychloroquine. We know for a fact that the doctors, without my mother's consent, because my mother had power of attorney, did not give my grandfather, did not give my grandfather ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, but gave my grandfather, without my mother's consent, remdesivir and opioids, fentanyl as the big one, medical fentanyl and other opioids, which killed my grandfather. They did that without my mother's consent. It wasn't until my brother-in-law went down there just weeks before my grandfather died and saw what was going on in his drip and said something. And of course, the doctors, they didn't care. They poo-pooed it and they lied. Instead of giving my grandfather nutrients to keep him strong and to make sure that he didn't die, they killed my grandfather slowly with remdesivir and opioids. Now, we tried to sue the hospital and get some restitution for my grandfather, but unfortunately, the laws, the medical malpractice laws, are so weak in Florida. And these were Republican legislators in 1994 that wrote these laws, that it's very hard to obtain any type of restitution unless the spouse of the deceased is alive or the children have to be ages 24 or younger. Well, my family's not eligible for any of that. So what I did instead is I made people aware of the story of my grandfather, and I continue to tell that story every day. Now, Dr. Fauci, your pardon was revoked. You are subject to prosecution. You killed many lives. People have called you a Joseph Mengele. Dr. Mengele was notorious for killing innocent children, experimented on twins, and did many heinous things. A lot of people have said, Dr. Fauci, that you have blood on your hands. My grandfather's death will not go how do I say this? His death won't be in vain. We'll put it that way. There will be justification. There will be proper closure here. You killed my grandfather. You killed many other grandfathers. You killed children. You killed pregnant women. You killed a lot of mothers. You killed a lot of nieces and nephews because you forced vaccinated people to take your sham vaccine that a lot of people have had severe health problems and they've obtained cancer and brain aneurysms and strokes and pulmonary embolisms and diabetes and things that they've never had before because of your vaccines. You know it. People have questioned if you even took your own vaccines. You probably just gave yourself saline water instead, because you probably knew in the back of your mind that these vaccines could kill people or give them HIV or AIDS. Remember, you tried to cure the HIV AIDS epidemic with Bill Gates? Yeah, how did that work out for you? And all of a sudden you're creating words like the Delta variant, Omicron. Where did these come from? You had it all planned out in your back pocket. But you forced the country to shut down. You forced the world to shut down. And as a result, many people's lives were taken, including my grandfather's. My grandfather had years to live. My grandfather should not have died of your vaccines. And I know that your vaccines killed my grandfather. You should be ashamed that you killed a 98-and-a-half-year-old World War II veteran. My grandfather will never get to see me, will never get to see me walk down the aisle and get married. He'll never get to see me have children. That's all I ever wanted. That's all I ever wanted. And you took that from me. And you took that from many, many others. So thank God we have an HHS secretary, a new one, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who announced, and we'll put up that slide, Operation Stork Speed. Damon, let's put that up. Here we go. Secretary RFK Jr. announces Operation Stork Speed, making sure safe, nutritious infant formula products are available for all Americans. So for women out there that can't breastfeed, or they may breastfeed in the morning, but they'll give their child formula at night so they can go to sleep, there's a lot of chemicals in formula. There's a lot of preservatives in formula. And thank God that RFK Jr. is taking upon himself to get rid of the preservatives and get rid of a lot of chemicals and dyes that are in baby formula. Because there is a lot, and that can affect the brain function of the child. That can cause a lot of diseases, or it can cause a lot of digestive issues down the road. You know, I know a lot of women that didn't breastfeed their children and just gave them formula. And a lot of children today have, or those kids, I should say, have a lot of digestive issues. So I'm very impressed that RFK Jr. is looking to baby formula and reformulating it so that these babies will grow and they'll be strong and they won't have health problems down the road. And then we have this, a Brazilian study confirms, and we'll put that up. Brazilian study confirms what we knew all along. Mask mandates not only failed to stop COVID, but may have actually contributed to excess mortality. The so-called experts pushed a cult-like obsession with masks, silencing anyone who dared to question them. Now academia is quietly admitting the truth. Far too late, but better late than never. It's time for those who were demonized, censored, and fired for speaking the truth to be fully vindicated. And I agree with that. There's many famous doctors like the America First doctors and many others, the late doctors of Zelenko, who I listened to, is an Orthodox doctor. He's the reason why I'm alive today, because I did his protocol. The doctors that are part of flccc.net, I encourage anybody who gets COVID to use that website, flccc.net, because it gives you the whole COVID-19 protocol and what vitamins to take and so forth. All those doctors, their licenses were threatened because they told the truth about the vaccines. I can tell you, the masks don't work. I got the Delta variant. I got a very bad case of COVID in January of 2022. I was flying to Dallas, Texas. Hello. And then I had to go to Lubbock, Texas, and Midland, Odessa. I was visiting friends in Texas that I know. And I was wearing that N95 mask, which they said was the best mask in the world. And I got the worst case of COVID. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had it for a month. I couldn't leave Texas. I had the cough from hell. It wouldn't go away. And I'm a professional opera singer. My voice is my life. This is what makes me money. I was throwing up. I was, things were coming out here. Things were coming out the other side. And my blood pressure was so low. My blood pressure was 87/59. That's death. If I hadn't gotten the monoclonal antibody treatment, I probably wouldn't be alive today. And because of Joe Biden, he was eliminating the monoclonal antibody treatment across the country. Monoclonal antibody treatments were closing down in Florida because of Joe Biden. Monoclonal antibody treatments were closing down in Texas because of Joe Biden. I called the governor's office. I called Governor Abbott. I said, everyone in my family has gotten this treatment except for me. I saved my grandfather from COVID with this treatment. Please, please help me get this. I had to hire a private nurse to come to my hotel room. She couldn't come to the house that I was staying at because it was all infected. I had to spend the night at a hotel, use my own money, and I had to use my own money to pay this private nurse to administer this treatment to my body. But that's what Joe Biden did to us. That's what Dr. Fauci did to us. Yeah, Dr. Fauci, I wore your damn mask. And you know what? I got really sick and I almost died. thank God that I'm young enough that I didn't have to go to the hospital. And my father said, if you get this damn virus, do not go to the hospital because you will die. They put you on a damn ventilator, you're done. But I'm glad that I went through it because I have huge antibodies now. My body is strong. I take vitamins galore. I've never taken so many vitamins in my life. I did end up getting COVID again. 6 months later, I got Omicron, which was the minor version. I only had it for 3 days, thank God. But again, I wore the damn mask. Wore the damn mask in the hospital, wore the damn mask in urgent care, wore the damn mask in my bedroom, wore the damn mask on an airplane. We all still got sick. And you know what? Dr. Fauci finally admitted that if you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 jabs of the vaccine, you're still going to get COVID. I thought it was a vaccine. I thought it prevents you from getting COVID again. And I believe that there is vaccine shedding. I do believe that because I have a lot of friends that are vaccinated, a lot of family members that are vaccinated, and sometimes I get very sick. I've gotten more sick now than I ever have. I used to get sick like once a year, once every 2 years. Now I'm getting sick every 4 to 6 months. It's crazy. I went on a cruise to Italy with my friends and I get walking pneumonia, first time ever. And then 4 months later, I have a sinus infection. And then 4 months later, I have a sore throat. And then 4 months later, my parents complain. They're like, you're always in the doctor's office. You're always in the doctor's office. Well, it's because there's a bunch of vaccinated people around me and they're shedding. And it's because of Dr. Fauci. And because of Dr. Fauci, my opera profession was hurt. Me singing opera was my full-time career. I traveled all over the country and the world. The minute that he mandated vaccines, that's when my career stopped. And these private opera companies like the Metropolitan Opera House and all these big companies and even agencies would not let me go and sing unless I was fully vaccinated. They said, where's your vaccination card? And I'm like, I don't have it. And then some people said, well, you need to take a PCR test every week. Well, that had E-Sterol, and I was not going to put E-Sterol up my nose every week. It was crazy. But that was the rules. It's either you put a swab of E-Sterol way up your nostril or up your butt, like in China, or you take 50 vaccines. And a lot of countries regret, like Israel. But Prime Minister Netanyahu says, I regret mandating the people of Israel to take 4 vaccines. He said, I didn't know because they were working with Pfizer. They do a lot of things with Pfizer and they didn't know the BS of the vaccines, but people are learning it now. They're learning the after effects. I talked to a lot of people that have a lot of bad side effects from the vaccines years later. I know doctors are evaluating people after taking the vaccine 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, if they're still going to live or not. And my great Surgeon General in Florida, he did a whole data study, came to Capitol Hill and said that boys between the ages of 18 to 39 that had any mRNA vaccines, they're likely to have a stroke, brain aneurysm, cardiac arrest. Libido is low. They won't be able to produce sperm. They won't be able to have kids. Same thing with young girls. Young girls, their periods will be wrecked. They won't be able to have children. They'll have to get not a mastectomy, a hysterectomy at very early ages. And there's issue again with pregnant women that have had the vaccines. I mean, there's a lot of side effects that doctors warn people, and because Dr. Fauci's people censored you, or because your job was threatened, no jab, no job. A lot of people just complied and they took the vaccines. And I feel bad for those people. I was able to get religious exemption and medical exemption for a lot of my friends so they could keep their jobs. I have religious exemption for myself. And we all know under President Trump, Hello, folks. Hello, folks. Can you hear me? We got cut off for 5 seconds. It could be from the storms going on in New Jersey. Sorry about that. But but just to, for the last 10 minutes. So again, has to do with we were talking about the vaccines. We're talking about the vaccines and how I did get medical and religious exemption for a lot of my friends, and they were able to keep their jobs. They were very thankful. I have religious exemption myself, but we know under President Trump, he never mandated anybody to take a vaccine. He never said you must take the vaccine. Heck no. And working with RFK Jr., RFK Jr. has stated that a lot of these vaccines, they cause severe autism in a lot of young children. And my sister has 3 children, and she saw the difference between her oldest daughter taking a bunch of vaccines, her middle child taking a couple of vaccines, and her youngest child, I don't even think it maybe has 1 vaccine. And she sees the difference. The oldest child that has all the vaccines has allergic reactions to food, has digestive issues, and is always sick. The middle child, he's a little slow in school because of taking some of the vaccines. He took a vaccine at like 18 months, which affected his learning ability. And then the youngest child, her youngest daughter, I think my sister gave her 1 vaccine and she's perfectly healthy. She's hardly ever sick. She's the most advanced out of the 3. She learned how to speak and read at 2 years old and tie her own shoes at 2 years old. So my sister did the experiment with her kids. And my sister would not take her kids to any school that mandated vaccines. And my sister actually homeschools her kids as a result. But again, it's everybody's personal choice. President Trump gave the people a personal choice whether they want to be fully vaccinated or not, but he never mandated it and never demanded it. Remember, in the beginning, the vaccines were really for people 65 years of age and older. They were never supposed to be for children. They were never supposed to be for, people 18 to 35, 18 to 40, 18 to 50. It wasn't supposed to be like that. But then Dr. Fauci comes in with Joe Biden and they force it upon us. And I feel really bad for those people that are having bad side effects from the vaccines. But there will be justice for you. The minute that Dr. Fauci goes to jail, there will be justice. There'll be justice for my grandfather. Again, I did not want my grandfather to die a COVID death. He didn't. And they said he just ended up dying of bilateral pneumonia, uncured bilateral pneumonia. But I did everything I could to make sure that my grandfather was not a COVID death. But boy, do I miss him. And boy, do I wish he was alive today. As I said, he had many, many more years to live. And just a couple minutes, I do want to talk and shift of this story, because this is actually Senate Republicans getting together and doing the right thing and seeing that someone in their party was doing something very heinous, or they found out he did something very heinous. He was arrested for doing something heinous. And today they actually had a hearing to remove this man from office. And we'll put up that slide. There we go. Senate Republicans call for immediate resignation of senator arrested for soliciting a minor. So I'll tell you a little bit about the story. And again, today they're introducing a motion to expel him. So this senator, he responded to, it was a fake ad actually, and struck a conversation with a fake 17-year-old. He thought he was talking to a 17-year-old. So the police actually put this fake ad together to actually find pedophiles and find people that are child trafficking and sex trafficking young children, young minors. So this 40-year-old senator, Senate Republican in Minnesota, who is 40 years old, and he's married with 3 children, by the way. He responds to this ad and he strikes up a conversation with, he thinks this is a 17-year-old, and he's asking the 17-year-old like very explicit things like, how much are your rates and availability for sex? How much is it to have sex with you without a condom? How much is it for, us to go to a hotel, us to have sex in the park, us to have sex in the car? And where can we meet? I mean, this is going on. It doesn't say how long the period of time is, but even just 5 minutes of the time is disgusting. The fact that this guy would even think to have sex with a 17-year-old is disgusting and nasty. And I don't know how old his children are, but if I was his children, I would never want to see my father speak to him ever again. And if I was the wife, I'd be thoroughly disgusted. I hope they get divorced. I hope she gets full custody of the children. This is just so freaking nasty. It's disgusting. I mean, the guy is an elected official. It's so nasty. And I'm not saying all elected officials are perfect, but it's just, you are representing your constituency, you're representing your district, and you do this and everybody knows you're married with kids. What the hell is wrong with you? So he finally says one day, where can I meet you? So the fake person on the ad responds and says, meet me here. So guess what? He meets that. So, he goes to meet that fake 17-year-old and he's welcomed by police. The police arrest him immediately, and they arrest him for for child trafficking, for sex trafficking, for basically soliciting a minor. And, of course, the guy's like, oh my God, am I being punked? Am I being catfished? I didn't know what was going on. And thank God that the Senate Republicans in Minnesota got together and they said, this guy's got to go. This is disgusting. This is not what we represent. This is not what the Republican Party represents. And it's interesting because this Senate Republican, he had just passed a bill saying that Trump derangement syndrome is a mental illness. So they said that he's, pro-life, that he's pro-conservative, he supports Trump, he supports Trump's values. But look what he's doing on the side in his private time. Fake Republican? I mean, how did this guy get elected? I'm sure the constituents regret voting for him. They didn't know they were voting for a pedophile. But this happens. This happens. And if you see something, say something. President Trump discovered, and so did Cash Patel, there's a lot of pedophilia in the government. A lot of it. And Thomas Homan's discovering it every single day. Any elected official that's caught soliciting a minor, they go to jail. They go to jail. And I thank the Senate Republicans in Minnesota for calling for an immediate resignation of the senator. His name is Justin Acorns. And I know that today they issued a motion to expel him. I wasn't able to follow up to see if they did expel him. I hope that they did. I will let you know in the comments later if they did. And the fact that he wouldn't resign right away is disgusting. And it's up for him to think that, he could just keep carrying on and being an elected official and there's no repercussions for him and there's no consequences is even more asinine and insane. And, I don't want to say that what he has is a mental illness, because he legitimately was hunting for a 17-year-old to have sex with her without a condom, and to pay for her, to have sex with her. That's prostitution, which is also illegal, especially in his state. And like I said, I don't want to call what he has a mental illness. He may plead he has a mental illness. He may say I was mentally unstable that day. No, you have young children. You know what you were doing. You were illicitly you were illicitly hunting, and you saw this ad, and instead of you clicking it away or going away from it or calling it spam or whatever, you subscribed to this ad. You were a part of this ad. You volunteered yourself, your name, you knew you were an elected official, and you decided to seek the 17-year-old out, and you were willing to have sex with her and pay for it, and you were going over rates with her. Disgusting. So disgusting and heinous. And if you know any representative in your town, in your state, in your county that's doing this, call them out, report them. Report them. Because these are the people that are ruining our country. These are the people that we are combating. These are the people that need to get the hell out of our country, the hell out of our government. This guy should have never been a serving elected official in Minnesota. He fooled everybody. He fooled us all. It's disgusting. So disgusting. I'm embarrassed for his wife and kids. I'm sure his wife and kids are just appalled and disgusting. I mean, I don't speak for them, but if I was his wife, I would just, oh my God, I would just be so disgusted. I hope she divorces him immediately. I hope that she gets full custody of the kids. I hope this guy goes to jail for a very long time, because that is disgusting. That is so disgusting. She probably didn't even know her husband was a pedophile. To discover that as a wife, to come home to hear on the news, my husband's been arrested for soliciting a minor, and to find out that he was actually soliciting a police officer, but he thought it was a minor. She's probably like, oh my God. But I want to tell his wife, you hold your head up high. You hold your head up high. You do not put your head down. You do not be silent. What you should do is you should combat sex trafficking, human trafficking, and child trafficking. You should work with President Trump here to eliminate the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, and the child trafficking that's going on in this country, that has been going on. You should call the drug cartels domestic terrorists like President Trump does, and you should work with President Trump to remove pedophiles from the government. That's what you should do. And you should start a charity for any child that you know that's been sex trafficked or child trafficked, or human trafficked. That's what you should do. You should reach out to kids that have been abused by someone that is like your husband. That's what I would do if I were you. Put your head up high. Do not go quietly into the night. Do not put your head down. Do not put your head in the dirt. It's already out there. Your husband's a pedophile. Your husband's a pig. Your husband's nasty. Your husband's disgusting. Your husband has a weird fetish. We know all about your husband. It's out there. So turn it around. Turn it around and do something for the greater good. Take his pension money and put it towards something for the greater good. And teach your children about pedophiles. And teach your children not to be like your husband. To rise above your husband. And if they want to become an elected official one day, these are the values that what they should do is they should practice what they preach. They shouldn't just say whatever they want to get elected. They must cater to their constituents, but they must believe in what they say and believe in what they preach. That's what I would do if I was her. I don't know how she feels right now. Like I said, she's probably embarrassed, but I'm telling her, if she can hear me, or if this goes out to her, or I may reach out to her myself, is that you hold your head up high. You have people that are supporting you. They know your husband's a SOB pig, and do the right thing and just help others in need. And nobody will remember his name, but guess what? They'll remember yours in a good way. Well, before we leave, I do have to advertise my friend's event, Kimberly Stansberry. We'll put that flyer up. There you go, Kimberly Stansberry. She's running for Baltimore County Executive. Join us for the Public Safety Over Politics campaign kickoff. That is tomorrow night, everybody. Tomorrow night, March 21st, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Bowmans, 9306 Hartford Road in Baltimore County, $60 dinner included. You can purchase or donate at electkimstansberry.org. That's electkimstansberry.org. Or as we're on the show, please click on that QR code and you can sign up to be a part of this event. It's going to be a great event. There's going to be a lot of people. We have John Myrick running for governor that's going to speak, and we have many others. I'm going to be there. And if you've never met Kim Stansberry before, you don't know anything about her, go meet her. This is the time. I'm sick and tired of people saying, I don't know my elected officials. I don't know anybody who's running. Well, we're giving you the opportunity. We're giving you the opportunity to meet John Myrick, who's running for governor, and we're giving you the opportunity to meet Kim Stansberry, who's running for Baltimore County Executive. If you don't know her, if you've never met her before, I implore you to go. And again, this is a one-on-one opportunity with Kim. You don't have to make an appointment to see her. You can just talk to her directly. And she's a wonderful person, a wonderful woman. Her husband served our nation. He was a Vietnam veteran. And also John Myrick served our nation as well. And these are people that want to, be your governor and your Baltimore County Executive. And you need to know who they are. You need to know who they are. And this is the opportunity. So again, tomorrow night, Kim Stansberry at the Bowmans in Baltimore County from 6 to 9 p.m. We also have, speaking of GoFundMe, what the young boy said, our friend Seth Eisenberg, he runs the Conservative Corner. He has been in the hospital now for 32 days. He had a very bad infection in his foot. Unfortunately, he had to get 5 surgeries. The infection went into his bone. He almost lost his toes. Thank God he still has his toes. Thank God he still has his foot. But he hasn't been able to work as a result. He hasn't been able to work in over a month. His bills are piling. He has a child. He has a home and a mortgage to pay. And, he says, I hate asking people for money, but I really need help this time because he doesn't know when he will get discharged. I can tell you that he will be on this network. He will be here Sundays at 7 to 9 p.m. with the Conservative Corner. The Conservative Corner is coming back, but we are asking you, the people, to help him out. So please go to GoFundMe Conservative Corner host. That is GoFundMe.com /help/Jonah/Eisenberg/overcome/health/crisis. He's already raised over $2,500 in just a few days. The goal is $25,000. Every dollar counts, whether it's $10, $15, $100, whatever you can give. Please help Seth Eisenberg. He also served our nation. He was in the Navy, and he doesn't deserve to be held up in a hospital for all this time. We really pray that his foot recovers and that he's up and running again, but he would really appreciate it if you help him out. So again, that's GoFundMe, Conservative Corner host. That's GoFundMe.com /help/Jonah/Eisenberg/overcome/health/crisis. And again, this has been a wonderful 2 hours. We had some great guests. Again, don't forget to follow Noah Coffin and Ollie Woodrow at YHS at Instagram, at TPUSA. I don't know why I wrote YHS, at TPA USA _WHS I'll say that again, at TPAUSA_WAHS. And then, of course, they have a GoFundMe for their high school chapter. GoFundMe, Turning Point USA, Western Albemarle. Western ALBMARLE in Virginia. It is their high school. Please go donate to their GoFundMe so they can have more events and bring bigger speakers to their high school. Again, for those of you who didn't hear, I am officially the White House correspondent for the America Pulse Network. That means that I am in the White House briefing room with Caroline Levitt, and hopefully I will be in the Oval Office with President Trump. I also get full access to the White House lawn, so I can ask any person out there, whether it's President Trump or JD Vance or anybody in the cabinet or Caroline Levitt, a question on the lawn. And it was really exciting being there last week. I will make it my business to be there every week and to also be in the White House briefing room. If you have any questions that you would like me to ask Caroline Levitt, you can message me at Alexandra Levine on Facebook. You can contact me on X at Alexandra Levi20. Please follow me and contact me on my YouTube at Levine Consulting, AR Levine 85 for Instagram, at AR Levine 85 on Truth Social. We also have another great show on this network, and we are growing. We are in talks to grow other shows as well, and our network is growing every day. We have the Jersey Shore with our host Damon Galdo. That's Mondays from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, and also Fridays 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern with our wonderful producer here, Damon Sherrod. And also, don't forget to follow us. We're at America's Pulse Network on X. We're at America's Pulse Network on Rumble. We're at America's Pulse Network on YouTube. And at the end of the month in April, we will be on Facebook at America's Pulse Network. And again, everyone, the reason you listen and the reason you watch is you are no idiot.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
Hello everyone, this is Alexandra Levine with Alexandra Levine Live on the America's Pulse Network. You are all in with Alexandra Levine. We are still waiting for someone from the White House to come out and tell us what transpired between President Trump and Vladimir Putin on that call today. We are here live at the White House. We're waiting for White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt to come out and tell us about the updates of today, the call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, what transpired in that call.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.